The earth hasn't shaken like that in a long time. This isn't a good omen.
I'm here to see Her Majesty Catherine de Medicis.
Enter. Her Majesty is expecting you.
You may enter.
Your Majesty?
César de Nostradame, I am delighted to meet you. Your father must esteem you highly to send you to me. He must have explained to you how difficult I am to satisfy.
You were mistaken, Your Majesty. He would never have said such things.
Don't be afraid to be frank, my boy. When we are alone, I expect you to say what you mean. I need someone I can trust, and not another hypocrite. According to Chavigny, your father is the author of this quatrain. Yet, when I spoke to him of it, he didn't seem to remember. It would seem that these verses are becoming reality. I need to know how this story will turn out, and if misfortune can be avoided. A scribe has traveled from Moulins with me. He has noted all the tragic events that have occurred in recent days. He has the order to transmit to you any information you consider useful. He's waiting for you, next door.
Very well, Your Majesty. I shall do my best to solve this mystery.
I don't doubt it, César. You may leave now.
I almost forgot. It's for you. My father's idea.
He hasn't forgotten what a sweet tooth I have. Thank him for thinking of it, and thank you for preparing it. Go now. You have much to do.
I'll be back when I have something new.
César? You're really him?
To be sure.
I thought you'd be older. I'm surprised.
Don't worry. My father wouldn't have sent me in his place if he hadn't thought I was up to the task.
I didn't mean to offend you, sir. Your youth does you honor. Her Majesty asked me to give you this. These are the notes I took concerning the strange events of the last few days.
Can you give me a brief summary of what happened?
Of course. On March 20th, the chambermaid of Princess Marguerite was found dead. The circumstances were suspicious. The next day, it was young Henry of Navarre's tutor. We all know that one misfortune leads to another, and that our Lord certainly has his reasons for calling his children back to him. But when, over the following 2 days, a lady companion of Her Majesty Catherine de Medicis, as well as the personal chef of King Charles IX, died in turn, the Queen Mother convened Jean-Aimé de Chavigny to ask his advice. That is how she came to learn of the quatrain written by your father, and decided to leave Moulins and the court to consult him.
Did you notice any particular connection among the deceased?
They all belonged to the retinue of the royal family, and therefore must have known each other. But beyond that, I don't see anything special permitting to establish a connection among them. but perhaps you will find helpful details in my notes. You know, I do not spend much time in the company of my fellow men, so sometimes I have a hard time understanding them.
Since your arrival, have there been any new incidents?
Unfortunately, yes. Yesterday, Her Majesty's coachman, and this morning, the castle librarian.
You mean the latest victim is not part of the royal retinue?
It's true. I hadn't thought of that. But it's probably not very significant. The curse is following Her Majesty. There are but 4 deaths left, my young friend, before evil strikes the royal family itself. Let us hope you can thwart the plans of the devil, with the help of God.
Could I see the bodies of the coachman and of...
The librarian, Philibert, was found in the scriptorium, but I had him carried to the chapel to prepare him for burial. So...
And the coachman?
He has already been buried, what with fear of the...
I understand. Did you know...
Only slightly. We exchanged... I only know that he'd been here just 10 days or so.
Without the birth date, it's impossible to determine the astrological sign. The zodiac isn't complete, yet the astrological signs of the victims seem to follow in order. Without the birth date, it's impossible. That must be where the librarian's body was found. There might be something important to discover. I'll have to clear it. 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 It's locked. Perhaps it contains some of the librarian's things. That's better. At last I'll be able to examine up close the place where that poor Philibert died. Well before the Romans occupied France, the Celts, a pagan people from the north, claimed to be able to predict the future. It is said they built many underground temples, where they conducted dark ceremonies. So, Philibert was interested in the Celts and their temples. It's surprising that he'd spend time on this sort of thing, when the scribe said he had so much to do since his arrival. Well before the Romans occupied it is so it's a He didn't lose enough blood to die from that. He must have passed away due to an internal injury. These books are magnificent. Luck, given the fall they've suffered. He didn't lose enough blood to die. These books are given the fall they've suffered. Strange, this pile of sawdust. That's what I thought. The break is too clean to be due to wear. Someone sawed this shelf. Philibert's death was therefore no accident. But who within these walls would have a reason to kill him?
Have you found anything interesting?
Jean-Aimé, I should have suspected you'd not be far away. I'm delighted to see you again in Salon.
I as well, young César. You've changed a great deal since our last meeting. And you must have made great strides, too, for your father to send you in his place. Unless he's really in very poor health.
You can go visit him if you're worried about him. He'll be delighted to show you he's not yet an invalid. But to get back to this case, I've actually discovered that the librarian's death wasn't accidental. In any case, the shelf didn't fall on its own. It was sawed through.
Barely arrived and you already suspect a murder.
I'm merely observing. I'll draw my conclusions later.
It's in the chapel. I won't go with you. I've just come from there. And besides a head injury...
I'll make sure that myself.
Well then, see you later, Cesar. If you need help, I'll be in my office.
I'll remember that.
I was joking. Oh, say hello to your charming sister when you get the chance. If she hadn't been a woman, I'm sure your father would have...
Hey, it looks as if Jean-Aimé wasn't as rigorous in his observations as he'd like us to think. This confirms what I saw in the library. This wound scarcely bled. It was certainly not the cause of death. If I had any doubts left, they're gone now. Poison is the only explanation for the condition of his tongue. I wonder how this detail could have eluded Jean-Aimé. And especially, why go to so much trouble to make believe it was an accident? There's clearly someone around who has no problem taking things into his own hands. This closet must have contained something important if it was forced open like this. But what? Looks like that burglar forgot something. What's happening to me? It looked like the dead librarian. The first figure is illegible. The first figure is illegible. All that's left is to piece together what was erased. What do you know? Looks like I found it. AMP 45.
I'm looking for the office of Jean-Aimé de Chavigny.
Stay on the corridor after the stairway. It's the second door on the right.
Thank you.
I wonder if it's best for me to see Chavigny as César or as myself.
Cesar, I didn't expect to see you so soon.
I thought I heard you offer your help a little while ago, but maybe you've already forgotten.
Very well, I'm listening. What do you need?
Information, Jean-Aimé. Just some information. Philibert was interested in pagan rites. He was reading a text on Celtic oracles. Don't...
La serrure du coffret a 6 épaisseurs. Une de cuivre, une de bois de...
And did he find...
La serrure du coffret a 6 épaisseurs. Une de cuivre.
In your opinion, who might have wanted to rummage through the...
So, you still think it was...
His tongue is black. No need to open his stomach to know he was poisoned. I'm actually...
Am I to understand you suspect me? Out of respect for your father and your sister, I'll not skew...
Very well, Jean-Aimé. I'll go. But you won't be able to avoid...
Madeleine, I'm delighted to see you. I hope you don't share your brother's suspicions about me.
In fact, I think that you and César should learn to get along. I'm not here to settle your quarrels. He's very busy, so I'm
Well then, tell me...
I want to learn more about Philip.
Barely. I ran into him twice.
And besides organizing and maintaining...
Oh, he was doubtless in charge of...
Do you know if he was writing a...
You'd do better to ask that question of your brother.
Who discovered the...
Me. Very early this morning. He was stuck up...
What position?
Bent in two. As if he'd been seated at... My goodness. You take your part...
Yes, I try to. I really want to...
Let him do a bit on his own, then. Anyway, young lady, you'll get nothing more from me.
Then goodbye for... I'm here to see Her Mad...
Impossible.
Well, how did your encounter with Catherine de Medicis go?
Not too well, to tell the truth. But she still entrusted me with the quatrain that's at the root of the case.
Well then?
Morning on the court shall fall, when 12 times catastrophe has told, one by one, in their
I understand why she's worried, though I don't remember writing. Do you know where
Yes, from...
Jean-Aimé, how is...
He doesn't seem to be in a bad situation.
He wanted to accompany the court on its tour of...
It can't be said that his return is occurring...
To be sure.
I'm afraid that in the Queen's entourage...
What do you mean?
It seems that the librarian was poisoned.
To be sure. Don't exclude fatality too quickly. There are those who would say...
I recovered information...
Very good. Were you able...
Except for Philibert, the chateau librarian...
Nothing else?
Yes. It looks like the victims died in the order of the zodiac.
And what about the library?
I couldn't find anything in his personal effects allowing me to determine when he was...
Sounds as though things are getting...
If you could remember, if you...
To be honest, there's something in the verses that rings...
Do you think that Chavigny...
There's only one way to find out. Certain products alter as soon as night falls. Generally, they grow under gallows and must be... Do you have the mandrake?
Yes.
Perfect. In my office, you'll find the recipe for also prepare some sage wine. In the meantime,
It must be ready. to do now is heat the whole thing. It smells really good. I hope it'll work. Father, wake up. Everything's ready.
Give me the sage. Not bad for a first try. The quatrain, Madeleine. Read me the quatrain again.
Morning on the court shall fall, when 12 times catastrophe has told.
That's not it.
Excuse me?
That's not what the images are still fuzzy, but the verses...
What did you find?
It was on the ground, in the
What are you talking?
The stone, Madeleine. It's when I...
Stone?
Yes, I think so.
I assume that Chavigny always had...
Of course.
But why did he only give one of the Father, he's fallen 2 quatrains and an engraved stone. I'm going to look into that stone tonight. As for the quatrain, if I don't... Father always keeps this door closed. It's a shame. His observatory is definitely the place in the house that I prefer. It has to be a full year since I set foot in here, but it still seems just as magical to me. So here's the famous stone. It looks so much like the one that Philibert wrapped up so carefully, you'd think it was the same stone. But it's getting late. I'll clear this up tomorrow. The night wasn't very restful, and I fear that the day to come, his light